When rest feels wrong, the guilt of slowing down. When doing nothing feels wrong. There's a strange and quiet unease that settles in when we finally stop. We sit down to rest. We lie in bed a little longer. We watch the sunlight filter through the window with nothing urgent to do. And at first, it feels like peace. But then something stirs. A tightness in the chest. A mental checklist rising in the background. A voice that whispers, "You're being lazy. You should be doing more. You haven't earned this." Where does that voice come from? It's not always ours. Often, it's the accumulation of lessons we never questioned. Messages passed down from parents, teachers, culture: busy is good. Idle is dangerous. Tired means you're trying. And so we internalize the idea that rest must be justified. That slowing down is something we must deserve. That if we're not being productive, we're somehow falling behind. It becomes a cycle: we push ourselves to exhaustion. Then try to rest, but feel anxious. Then shame ourselves for needing the rest at all. So we go back to pushing. This guilt isn't harmless. It chips away at our well-being. It teaches us to ignore our body's signals. To silence our mind's need for stillness. To equate self-worth with performance. But rest is not indulgence. It's not selfish. It's not optional. Rest is repair. Rest is what allows us to think clearly, love deeply, and show up fully. Without it, we're not stronger, just more depleted. So when that inner critic speaks up in moments of rest, maybe it's time we speak back. With gentleness. With truth. With a new belief, that I am still enough, even when I'm doing nothing. The origins of guilt around rest. This guilt we feel when we slow down, it didn't appear out of nowhere. It was planted early, like a seed. Watered slowly by expectations, comparison, and subtle praise for always doing more. Maybe you grew up in a household where being still was seen as laziness. Where the value of a day was measured by how much you got done. Where the phrase, "Don't just sit there, do something," wasn't advice, but a rule. Maybe you watched the adults around you sacrifice their rest without question. Always working. Always fixing. Always giving. You learned that love looks like overextending. That success is about constant motion. That your worth is directly tied to your output. Or maybe your guilt took root in school. Where rest was never rewarded, but achievement was. Where burnout was seen as dedication. Where overachieving became a source of identity, even when it came at a cost. And so now, even as an adult, sitting down to do nothing doesn't feel neutral. It feels wrong. It feels like you're violating some invisible contract. Like you're slipping behind while the rest of the world moves ahead. But here's the truth: rest is not the opposite of ambition. It's what fuels it. You don't have to abandon your goals to protect your peace. You just have to stop believing that suffering is the price of being worthy. We've been conditioned to believe that rest must be earned. But your body doesn't need permission to breathe. Your heart doesn't need to justify beating. You are not a machine. You are a living, feeling, beautiful human being. And your value doesn't decrease when you pause. If anything, that's when your humanity shines through the most. Reclaiming the right to rest. Reclaiming rest is not just about taking a break. It's about remembering that you are allowed to be even when you're not producing. It begins with unlearning. Unlearning the belief that exhaustion equals importance. That busyness means you're doing life right. That the more you sacrifice, the more worthy you become. We've all been subtly trained to see rest as a luxury. Something you earn after everything is done. But here's the truth: everything will never be done. There will always be something to clean, to answer, to achieve. So if you keep waiting for the right time to rest, you may never get there. Reclaiming rest means making it part of your life now. Even if the to-do list is long. Even if others don't understand. Even if that inner voice still whispers, you should be doing more. Because rest is not a reward, it's a right. A human need. As essential as food, water, and love. And this kind of rest is not just physical. It's emotional. Mental. Spiritual. It's allowing yourself to slow your breath when the world rushes by. It's giving yourself permission to feel instead of perform. It's noticing the moment, really noticing. Without trying to turn it into content or productivity or proof. And yes, reclaiming rest takes courage. Because it will feel unfamiliar. It will challenge everything you've been taught. You might feel lazy. You might feel selfish. But every time you choose rest with intention, you're also choosing self-respect. You're saying, I matter, even when I'm not proving anything. That's a quiet kind of power. And it builds slowly, but deeply. A new definition of worth. Imagine a life where your value isn't measured by output. Where you don't have to be tired to feel accomplished. Where doing nothing, simply being, is not something to apologize for. That kind of life begins with a radical shift, letting your worth be rooted in your existence, not your efficiency. You are not a machine. You are not a task list. You are not a project to constantly improve. You are a whole, complex human being. Worthy of care, even on the days when you feel unproductive. Especially on those days, because the truth is, you were never meant to be on all the time. You were never meant to constantly give without receiving. You were never meant to carry the weight of proving yourself every waking hour. And maybe, just maybe, you don't need to do more. You need to feel more. Rest more. Come home to yourself more. Your rest is not a weakness. It's a quiet rebellion in a world that profits from your self-neglect. It's a sacred act of healing. Of remembering that you are already enough, before you check one more box. So start small. Close your eyes for a few extra seconds in the morning. Put down your phone and take a walk without a purpose. Let your body breathe without guilt. Say no to the noise, and yes to your nervous system. You deserve that peace. You always have. If this message resonated with you, please consider subscribing to Mindful Voice. Together, let's build a space where rest is honored, humanity is embraced, and healing begins, gently, truthfully, and one breath at a time.